What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets, Jets. I'm your host, the spitting statistician, Dane Martinez, and today we are still in that kind of break between mini camp and training camp, but I want to continue to talk about what I think is going to be big for the Jets, and it is an upgrade in the run game for so many reasons. I think the Jets are primed to really improve on what was the 31st ranked run game last year in the NFL. We obviously talk about the offensive line. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on in this broadcast, how I think Braylon Allen is going to be big in his second year. But the big difference is, for the first time ever, we have a true dual threat quarterback, and it is Justin Fields. And quite frankly, not only do we have a dual threat quarterback, we have one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the entire NFL. I have been telling you about this, whether it's about the tush push effectiveness, whether it's about 1,000-yard season that he's had, whether it's about 100-yard games that he's had. And check this out. Literally, since he has been in the league over the last 5 seasons, look at the top rushing quarterbacks in that time span. You see Lamar Jackson with over 4,200 yards, Jalen Hurts, 3,100 yards. Josh Allen, just over 3,000 yards. Justin Fields checks in fourth behind only Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Allen, above a guy like Kyler Murray. But then look deeper, because remember, Justin Fields weren't in all of those games over the last 5 years. So then I put the games there, and you also see the yards per game. And then all of a sudden, Justin Fields, who gets about 50 yards on the ground per game, is better than Jalen Hurts, is better than Josh Allen, okay? Only Lamar Jackson, who is, by the way, a 2-time NFL MVP, has the Baltimore Ravens as a true contender year in and year out. Only Lamar Jackson is a better dual threat quarterback looking over the last 5 years when you look at his rushing numbers. And I've said it before, Justin Fields is only one of 3 quarterbacks in the league to ever have had a 1,000-yard rushing season. The others, Lamar Jackson and Michael Vick. Justin Fields has 500-yard rushing games on his resume. The only quarterbacks with more, Lamar Jackson and Michael Vick. All right, Justin Fields has an all-time record of 178 rushing yards in a single game. He did that against the Miami Dolphins back in 2022, and I've told you before, Fields has had 300-yard rushing games against Aaron Glenn, which is part of the reason maybe that Aaron Glenn was targeting him in free agency. Now, I know you talk about how he's got to be better as a passer. I do think he's developed. Buzz and reports of that. He's looked much better developing. But that element of being a dual threat certainly is going to be an additive for the Jets offense. And as I said yesterday, there is a big correlation between being a team that's able to run the ball and being able to have success, go to the playoffs, compete for championships. And the Jets moving from number 31 in the league all the way up to what should be, by all accounts, a top 10 run game, I think is going to be huge for the 2025 green and white. If they're going to have a top 10 run game, which I believe is definitely in the cards here, and that's another reason why, think about it, you don't need a great wide receiver 2, right? Look at the Baltimore Ravens. Who's their wide receiver 2 behind Zay Flowers, right? Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. Who's their number 2 receiver? It was like Diami Brown, for goodness sakes, right? The Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen. Who was their number 2 wide receiver? It's not like you always have to have this when you are at a strong, elite run game, and that's what I think the Jets are going to be. And this is going to be predicated on that young, good offensive line anchored by center Joe Tipman. And look at what Joe Tipman had to say about Justin Fields. He is all in and excited to grow with the new QB1. This is what Tipman had to say. He's such an awesome guy as a leader, as a player, as a quarterback. He's someone who takes his job very seriously, but also he's a smart individual, someone who's always learning, always developing. And it's been cool for me being with someone I can develop with. Playing with Aaron Rodgers, that was a great experience, but with Justin, a younger guy, someone I can learn from and grow with, that's really what makes it the most for me. And we've heard other people talk about this with Justin Fields, how he's younger, how they can grow and develop, how they can relate to him. Remember Aaron Glenn talking about the characteristics he wants in his leaders, being able to ingratiate himself to his teammates. And I think this is, once again, important. This offensive line can help unlock Justin Fields in this run game even more. The tush push is something that may be used a little bit more with Justin Fields. He is behind only Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen in terms of using that. So obviously Joe Tipman is going to be a piece of that. And quite frankly, Joe Tipman was good last year, okay? He allowed only 5 sacks, 23 pressures last year, a 97.9 pass blocking grade from PFF, and his overall grade was 7th among centers. This is a top 10 center. Many people believe will be a top 5, top 10 offensive line, and that is another thing which will add to the Jets, specifically in the run game, and then they got all they need in the passing game. I believe the wide receiver 2 is going to be Josh Reynolds, and quite frankly, that stacks up against the wide receiver 2 for some of these other dual threat running based teams, like an Arizona, who's their wide receiver 2, like Washington, who's their wide receiver 2, Buffalo, who's their wide receiver 2, the Ravens are the same thing. So we don't have to have stuff everywhere. This is an identity that we are building. The last guy I want to talk about here on Jets Latest today, when we talk tight end, we've been talking a lot about Mason Taylor. I mentioned how he was still unsigned and why that might be in yesterday's episode of Jets Latest. But another tight end out there, someone who has experience with Justin Fields, the leader of this team, is third, fourth-year tight end and Ohio State alumni and teammate of Justin Fields, Jeremy Rucker. And Rucker has been challenged a little bit by Aaron Glenn. We've always been thinking, is this the year that he comes on? Listen to what Aaron Glenn had to say. That's another player I had the chance to talk with face-to-face and tell him about the things he needs to improve on. And I think he's improved quite a bit. He wants to be good. He comes from a really good program. We have a number of guys from that program. I've stressed him pretty hard throughout camp because I think there's a lot of meat on the bone with that player. Good size, long arms. I think he can help us in the passing game. Obviously, he's going to be a really good blocker for us. But there are some technical things that he can improve on, and he's doing everything he can to improve on those things. One of the things he's doing is going to what's called Tight End U. George Kittle, Travis Kelce, they put it on every year, right? All the tight ends go there. And Tight End U was represented pretty well by the New York Jets. Not only did Rucker go there, Mason Taylor went there, Stone Smart went there over the last couple of weeks, so they are definitely getting that work in. Rucker had 18 catches for 105 yards last year. He did do that on only 23 catchable targets, right? So he is bringing the ball in, being sure-handed, and still taking up the challenge, right? We talk about how this coaching staff is challenging everybody from all pros like Sauce to front line to first-year players like Arian Smith, but Jeremy Rucker definitely is there in between. And then also, Rucker, as I mentioned, was at Ohio State with Justin Fields, similar to how Josh Myers, the backup to Tipman, was. Similar to how, of course, Garrett Wilson was, right? So Rucker knows Justin Fields and his leadership very well. Listen to what Rucker had to say about Fields. The culture that we're setting here, Justin Fields is a perfect fit for it. He's tough, he's athletic, he doesn't care what anybody thinks about him. He's just going to go out there and ball. He's been like that his whole life. We had a lot of winning seasons and big games and big moments at Ohio State, so he's not shy of it. And we're excited to rally behind him and get this thing rolling. Again, Fields as the undisputed leader of this team. He was targeted in free agency. They didn't draft anybody. They didn't sign anybody to really be competition. Tyrod Taylor is the only guy on this roster over 30, is the grizzled veteran and mentor there in that room. Everyone is behind Justin Fields. They're building an identity and a culture with Justin Fields as the head of it. We've heard Engstrand, the offensive coordinator, talk about it, and it really seems every day we have more quotes about people really believing in the leadership style, the leadership ability of Justin Fields. And Fields is being surrounded by some Buckeyes there as well. And Jeremy Rucker, a tight end who is working to develop to address some of the challenges that Aaron Glenn put forth, is no exception, both in terms of the young developmental culture and the belief in Justin Fields. So that'll do it for this episode of Jets Latest. As always, I remind you to watch these videos, like these videos, subscribe to the Jets Latest channel, and thank you to the over 1,800 people who have so far. I hope you like the content you're getting every day. We bring you the fire here on the JETS Jets. I encourage you, engage with me in the comments. I like to write back to you guys. You can follow me on Twitter, on social media, at Spittin' Speeds. And remember, if you want to see more from me outside of just the green and white, I'm the host of the FTN Fantasy Show over on SiriusXM, where we're getting you ready for fantasy football. We talk all sports. FTN is a great website with a lot of tools, data, and content help you become a better fantasy football player, fantasy player, and sports better. And also, speaking of sports betting, I am also the host of In Game Live over on Sports Grid a few nights a week, where we Just like Red Zone on Sundays, we look around all the sports every night trying to find live betting opportunities. If you see something, say something, and you can see me over on Sports Grid on In Game Live. But if you want to be just down with the green and white, I will be here every day giving you what you need as we head into training camp of what should be a very fun, new feeling, new brand, new roster, ascending team, which is the Jets in 2025. One thing I know, I'll be here tomorrow to talk about it some more. We'll see you then. We out of here. Peace.